Welcome back. We are talking about rational numbers. And remember, rational numbers, they have three characteristics. The first is that it can be written as a fraction, where the number on top of the fraction is an integer, like, -2, and the number on the bottom is also an integer that's not equal to 0. You can never have 0 on the bottom of a fraction, or at least a rational number. Okay, so that's the first part. The second part is that it can be a terminating decimal. That's just a decimal that stops, so something like 3.45 or 46. Okay, it stops, so that's a terminating decimal. That's a rational number. Or the third thing, so that's the second thing. The third thing is a decimal that repeats. So something like 7.868686. It keeps repeating this pattern of 86. What we write that as is 7.86, and we put a vinculum over both. That's that little line on top. It just means that they repeat. So those are the three characteristics of rational numbers. So what we're going to be doing in example number 2 is writing decimals as fractions. So we're going to start here. We got 5.37. So in order to do that, you have to remember what your place values are for decimals. So this is obviously the ones place. So we're just going to leave that as a big 5. And then we have the tenths place and the hundredths place. So what we can write this as is 5/37 hundredths. This is the tenths and the hundredths, so it's 37 hundredths. Okay? Now what we need to do is we need to put it in simplest form. We just need to simplify this fraction. So are there any common factors between those two? Well, 37. What are the factors of 37? Well, we got 37. I'm going to write 37 here. There's 1 and 37, obviously. Okay. We're going to check 2. Well, 2 doesn't go into 37 because 37 is odd. Okay, so 2 is not going to happen. However, I just want to see what would it be 2 times approximately what is around 37. We know that 2 times 20 is 40, so I'm going to say probably 2 times 19. That's going to give me 38. So notice the gap is closing. 3, is it divisible by 3? 37, 3 plus 7 is 10. 10 is not divisible by 3, so we know that 3 is not a factor. However, 3 times, 13 is 39, and so the numbers are getting closer. Would 4 be divisible? Well, no, 4 is not divisible because, number one, it's just odd, and so it's not. But what would be about right? 4 times, oh goodness, what would that be? 4 times 10. Yeah, 10, that would be 40. That would be close. Okay, even though none of these are factors. And then what? 5, it doesn't end in a 0 or a 5, so we know that 5 is not a factor, but 5 times 7 is 35. 5 times 8 is 40. I'll just put the 8. And that leaves the only numbers between those. See how the numbers are getting closer? That means we don't really have to keep searching that much further. The next one would be 6. 6 is not an option because it's even. But 6 times 6, right, would be 36, or 6 times 7 would be 42. So really, we have exhausted all of the options for 37. So 37 is a prime number. None of these are factors, but we know that we got close enough. We started, and they kept getting closer until there was no more room in between the numbers. So we know that we've exhausted all the choices. So 37 is a prime number. Now all we want to really know is, does 37 go into 100 evenly? No, it does not. So that means that this is in simplest form already, because 37 is prime and 37 doesn't go into 100 at all. So 37 and 100 would be called relatively prime. We talked about that last time. Okay, let's do this next one. This is 0.622. We need to convert that to a fraction. This is a big one. So this is the tenths place, hundredths place, thousandths place. Oh my goodness. So 622 over 1,000. Okay. This is a big one. So what I'm going to say is I have no idea what goes into this. All I know, just by looking at it very, very quickly, is that 2 goes into both of them. So I'm just going to go ahead and take out a 2 really quick. So 622, they're both even, so 2 goes into them. 622 divided by 2 is going to be 311. And 1,000 divided by 2 is going to be 500. Okay, this is a little bit better to work with these numbers. So let's just start with 311. Okay, here we go. We know that a factor is, I'm going to start down here, so 311 needs a little bit more space. 1 and 311, okay. 1 and 311. All right, does 2 go into it? No. Okay, so what I know about that is since 2 does not go into it, I know that any of the other numbers, even numbers, don't go into it as well. So I'm going to write other numbers down here. So I'm going to just write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay. So when 2 doesn't go into it, I know that 4 is not going to go into a 311, 6 is not, 8 is not, 10 is not, 12 is not, 14 is not, 16. Really, any even number is not going to go into 311. Okay? So the next one I'm going to check is 3. Well, does 3 go into a 311? Well, let's see. 3 plus, okay, we're going to add up the thing. So 3 plus 1 plus 1, that's 5. 5 is not visible by 3, so that means 3 does not go into 311. So that means really any multiple of 3 doesn't go into 311 either. So that would be 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. Okay, let's check 5. Now 5, it doesn't end in a 0 or a 5, so we know that 311, 5 does not go into 311. So 5, 10, 15, 20, yeah, no multiple of 5 is either. Okay, we're to 7. Remember, there's no easy rule for 7. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to divide 311 by 7. Okay, 7 goes into 31 4 times, 28. Just doing the long division here. And then 7 goes into 31. How many times? I guess it would be 4 again, right? And then that's 28. And then that would be 3 and then 0. And so it's 44 point something, okay? So what that tells me is that 7 times 44 point something is, so I'm just going to write it up here and maybe I'll put it in blue. So 7 times 44. So we were at point something. This is not a factor, but it just shows me that the numbers are getting closer. So we started 1 and 311. We know that that's a factor of 311. Now when I get to 7 and 44, the numbers are getting closer. So I'm trying to figure out, well, how high do I need to go to keep looking for these factors of 311? So, but 7 is not. So any other multiple of 7 would not be a factor either. Okay, so 7 is not a factor. Let's look at 11. So we're just going to go 11 divided by 311. And how many times does 11 go in there? Does it go in there evenly? Let's see. So it'd be 2, 22, which would be 9. We're going to drop that 1. 11 goes into 91. Let's say 8 times. 8 times 11 is 88. It doesn't go in evenly, so it's going to be 28, something. Doesn't really matter at this point. So what we know is that 11 is not a factor of 311, but 11 times 28 something, point something, it would be a decimal. So we see that these numbers are getting closer, which is good. Okay, but 11 is not a factor, so let's go up to 13. So we're just going to go 13 divided by 311, and 13 goes into 31 2 times. 2 times 13 would be 26. Just doing the long division. 5, drop down that 1, we got 51. And then 13 goes into 51 3 times. 3 times 13. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 1 is 3. And then that would be 11 times 9 was 2. And then 1, so 12. Okay, so it doesn't go in evenly. And there's a remainder, so yeah. So we know that 13 is not a factor of 311, but we know that 13 times 23 point something, you see, so the numbers are getting closer. So that means that we don't have to keep really looking that much further, but let's look at 17. So 17 would be the next possibility for going into 311. Okay, 17, how many times does it go in there? It's going to go in there 1 time, go into 31, 1 times 17. We're just doing the long division here. That's a 2. 2 minus 1 is 1. Okay, and then 1, and then 17 goes into 144. Let's say 8 times. 8 times 7 is 56. Write the 6, carry the 5. 8 times 1 is 8 plus 5 is 13. Then we're just going to subtract. And we got 3. Okay, the remainder of 5. So 17 is not a factor, but what we just found out is that 17 times 18 point something is about 311, something around there. So what we see here is the factors they're really, really close. They're touching now. So that means we are done looking for. There are no factors of 311. 311 is a prime number. Okay, so the only factors of 311 are 1 and 311. So the only other question we have to ask ourselves is, does 311 go into 500 evenly? And it does not. So that means that 311 over 500 is, those two numbers are relatively prime, and that is in the simplest form. Okay? So now what we're going to do is I need you to pause the video, and you guys are going to, we're going to do pause. I'm going to get my little nifty pause dragon. Okay, so this is to help you guys remember to pause. And look at this, the nifty pause dragon. He's leaving his pause. So you guys need to pause it. Okay, bye. All right. Okay, we are back. Hopefully you guys finished these problems. I want you to pause that and complete checkout example 2A and B. So once you guys have completed those, restart the video, and we're going to go over the answers. So here we go. 8.75. We know to put this, we're going to write each decimal as a fraction in simplest form. So this is just 8, a regular 8. And then this is the tenths and the hundredths place. So this is the same thing as 75 over 100, right? And if we look at 75 and 100, we know that 25 goes into both of those. 25 goes into 75 3 times, and it goes into 100 4 times. So the answer is 8 3/4. Okay? Here we go. This one, 0.2625. This one's going to be a lot of fun. All right, so what place is this? Tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths. So this is the same thing as 2,625 10,000ths. Holy goodness, that's a lot. So I'm just looking at these numbers. I'm trying to see, well, is anything go into these? Looking right off the bat, I see that 25 goes into them because this ends in a 25 and that ends in 0, 0. So I know 25 goes into both of those. So 25 goes into 2,625. Let's go ahead and figure that out real quick. How many times does 25 go in there? Well, 25, does it go into 2? No. 25 go into 26? Yes, 1 time. 1 times 25. It's always good to do these calculations. It does not, 25 does not go into 12. Using your brain. So now we're going to drop this. And 25 goes into 125 5 times. It's always good to use your brain. So 25 goes into 2,625 105 times. And 10,000. How many times does 25 go into 10,000? A lot. Okay, 25,000 going to 1. No, 25,000